evening, everyone. Welcome to Sports Corner with the Conn Man on the Sports Wave Network. This evening, I have with me a very special guest. Folks, let me tell you something right now. I've been doing the shows for quite a while, but I think you're going to be very interested in tonight. I have my guest, Ash Ondo. Ash, how you doing tonight? Oh, I'll be having some vocal. Can you hear me? While she's trying to get things together, Ash was one of the best ball players in the country. And I think we can.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
How you
Good
doing?
evening.
I needed a
Doing.
microphone. I'm good. Thanks, Mike.
Oh, it's an honor and a privilege to have you on my show. And, you know, uh, I want to let folks know how this all began. When I started the pandemic started, and I tried to go and get on different shows, whatever, I contacted Not in My House. And for some reason, they were interested in me, and they did not only do one, they did two shows. Anyway, fast forward, they had you on their show, and they contacted me, and they said, Mike, you need to have Ash come on your show. I said, of course. So I contacted you, and you was willing and interested in coming on my show. And what I like to do, Ash, is on my show, I like to have people talk about their grind and their journey and to make an impact. So let the folks know what your grind and your journey was.
All right. Well, do you want me to just give it a go and start talking about, okay. So my first grind in my life started off with basketball. I was born in the middle of the Nevada desert, like middle of nowhere, So
Hmm.
I had this dad that played basketball at a pretty high level. He played overseas some and he was really good. And I'm a really big girl, so it was kind of inevitable that I was going to learn this trade. It was kind of a family trade, And that was my first grind, man. I started at like 3 years old in the gym with my dad, learning really, honestly, top notch basketball. And I worked my butt off for many years, for about 15 years, 60, well, probably more, about like 20 years. I worked on basketball really, really, really hard. But before I kind of got to get the rewards at the end, which would have been, for me back then, that was in the 90s. We didn't even have the WNBA, hadn't even formed yet back then. So it it was all kind of about like, what college are you going to go to, and maybe you'll go overseas and play or something. But I before that even kind of really happened for me, I ended up going to so I'm this really good, promising high school player coming out of the middle of nowhere. And I'm making a big splash back in the late 90s. And there were a lot of really good players back then too. We had like Diana Taurasi,
Okay.
yeah. I played. She was on my team at the Nike All American camp. Yeah, and um, yeah, she was good. She was good. I had to D her up a little bit though. Even though we were on the same. uh, that was a wonderful time playing with players of that caliber. But before my career really kind of got to take off, and after this grind of basketball that I stayed really dedicated to in high school, my dad and family felt that we wanted to get me and my younger sister, she was a player too, some more notoriety, because we're from the sticks. We're out here in the middle of nowhere. We didn't even have a phone, Michael, growing up. I am not playing you. We did not have a telephone. So yeah, we were entering this world of like competitive performance sports, and we my dad ends up taking me to this AAU coach in a bigger city. And kind of that's where the other grind of my life started. And this coach ended up being a sexual predator, and I didn't know it. Didn't even kind of know what that was at the time. Just thought, wow, there's this guy that likes me, and he happens to be my coach. It was the weirdest kind of scenario where uh, a lot of grooming and stuff took place. A lot of concepts that kids at 15 they don't understand, especially from the middle of nowhere. So I meet this coach. He's very kind of influential. I feel like he's very powerful. I feel like he holds the key to my future. And he's telling me he loves me and wants to, be with me like intimately. And I'm 15 years old. And but the environment that we were in on this team, it really he was able to both hide and reveal this at the same time, Mike, by being very uh he tried to be transparent with the people and the kids by being very jokingly, even though it was inappropriate. He was like, yeah, I'll be this way in front of you, but that wasn't what it was. It wasn't like that. He was that way, and then he was even worse, when no one was looking. So I end up at 15 being he first attacked me outside of a basketball practice in a gym, outside of a or not I'm sorry, not outside of the it was outside of a bathroom. I just got out of the bathroom, and and this coach, and he's married. He's freaking married, and I see his wife, and he had already kind of groomed me by this point by telling me that his wife was very cool with him being flirtatious with the girls. And it was I didn't understand anything. I was very dumb. And so he corners me like right outside of this bathroom, and he puts his hands down my pants and underwear and everything. Yes, yes. And I'm like beyond shell shocked. Like, my coach took it from one level of like talking about players' butts and everything like that to now he is doing something I don't even understand. And it scared me. It probably excited me in a weird, gross teenager way. But I was forever different after this, after these interactions at first with this coach. And very soon after, my very involved dad that had kind of crafted my career with me, and hopeful career, he began to become a hindrance for this coach to kind of see me. So this coach started really making me pit my dad against this situation, and like making making my dad feel like an outsider, to his own family and daughter and shit. I was terrible. I went along with this, with this man and what he was asking me and manipulating me to do. So I really kind of played into his main goal, which was to get me isolated on these trips so that I could go alone and travel on these trips. His wife wouldn't be there. He got to run amok. And literally, he was taking young girls, underage girls, out of state to different states. And he started having sex with me at these national tournaments where we were competing, for like national prizes and different sort of accolades, and in front of different major college coaches. So I would go from performing at these tournaments probably okay, but not in a way that I should have been, because I was disfocused from this uh, attention now in my life and this situation. And then by nighttime, I was in his hotel room. He was giving me alcohol, and I was on my back, and we were in his bed. It, the it happened so fast.
15?
Yeah, the grooming, and he first touched me at 15, and then the actual when he had sex with me, I was 16. And then it ramped up after that. Then the degradation kind of started after that. He was very, obviously people like that are sick, but he was very sick, and he just had access to a lot of different, man, he had access to a lot. He was a very respected kind of up and coming coach that was presenting that he was offering this great service to a community that was really underserviced in this way. And people really wanted to get behind him. And so there was this genuine support. And I don't think people knew how to deal with, he wasn't like an employee of a school,
Hmm.
like Coach LeMay and stuff. Like but he didn't work at a school. He kind of was like a independent contractor almost. And I think a lot of people didn't know how um, he was supposed to be managed, and like who was supposed to oversee him and his activities. Because but honestly, Michael, the interesting thing was that he was able to operate out of the local schools all the time, and so that's where he used that access, and he would hurt kids in those places. Um so that and then that it just starts escalating. My attention starts getting more and more pulled towards this real dysfunctional, grotesquely sexual relationship with this coach, where I'm a child, even though I'm a big child. I'm like 6'2". I'm a baby inside. And I'm I'm trying to manage it all, but I'm not doing a very good job. I end up making some poor choices in like my decision on where to go to a school. And even though I had attention from all most of the top schools, I wouldn't say like, I don't think like Tennessee or UConn was seriously recruiting me, but all of the other really, really top schools, I was looking at Duke, North Carolina, um, seriously considering them. But then I ended up choosing Nevada so that I could stay close to this coach. And it was so dysfunctional for my, uh, man, that was definitely a turning point, was not, was allowing myself to give up because I kind of gave up my basketball dream in that. I just chose this school. Um, and I began then really failing in front of all my friends and family, because I started not being able to handle the complexities of what a relationship like this is, and one that had been going on for years. And gosh, I had a suicide attempt my freshman year at college there. And that came after he told me, this coach, and he was very involved. He was at the school picking me up, dropping me off, keeping me out late. I was driving his car all the time. It was so, I, I'm so ashamed. But many other people probably are very confused about how it all happened too. And he told me during the middle of my season, my freshman year there, that his wife was pregnant, but it wasn't his baby, but he was going to stay with her. And he wanted me to continue seeing him. And so I had my unfortunate first attempt, and I left the team shortly after that. I was mentally starting to, not be able to handle everything that I was losing. My relationships with my family had become almost zilch. Like I had, I had to lie to so many people to keep myself close and with this coach who had now, over the span of like 3 to 4 years, had really, really just involved himself in my life. And so after I quit my freshman year, I was one of the top players in the country, and I go to this really small school, and then I quit halfway through. And this coach, he just had a lot of parents, a lot of donors, a lot of help. He had access to a lot of support, and I ended up staying with a parent friend of his that he kind of just put me up at his house so that he could see me whenever he wanted me to or wanted to. And um, it I just end up, my life ends up having no direction, and I kind of, I don't know what to do. And over this time, I kind of work for him and his company because I want to stay in basketball. I don't know what else to do. And yet I'm with him, and his wife is there, and she know it's so weird and messed up.
Wow.
And I have a very intense confrontation with her where she like physically uh, confronted me and like tried to almost assault me. Um, One day and she had her child in her arm. It was very baby. It was very, and they were very intensely immature and dramatic people, and that just were running a business for that were managing kids and their dreams, and they were just really improper people to be running this. And I fell hard in the middle of this sexual predators web, and I fell deep because after I quit school, and after I'm so sorry, uh, start losing more and more things, I end up getting pregnant by him. And I know, and I didn't know it for quite a while because I just probably wasn't paying much attention to anything in my life and didn't care. And I um, end up having to make a very kind of rushed plan on what to do with the fact that I'm very late term pregnant. And I had made a plan to go try to move on with my life at another place and go to another university and play basketball again. I tried to, muster up what I could after just failing really bad that first year in college, and then getting pregnant, and I saw the direction of my life. So I'm pregnant, and he promises that he's going to help me um, and keep all this very hidden so that I didn't understand, because he didn't get in trouble. I always felt like it so we didn't get in trouble. And so I end up telling no one about this, not my parents. And I he stashes me with this teacher that from like in the Reno area. She was like a high school teacher, and she was a ex-girlfriend or something of his. And he hid me there at her house while I had our daughter, and he never ended up coming back for us. And I'm at this strange lady's house with my child, and I have to go to college, and I'm so scared to like tell on him. I didn't know I should tell on him, but I just didn't know what to do. And I ended up getting a call from this person, and they, out of kind of desperation and not knowing better, and everything, I end up placing my daughter with an adoptive family out of state. And it seemed like a good thing at the time, and I felt relieved for my daughter to be in a better situation than I could have given her.
Mhm.
Um, However, I wish I just I don't know why I didn't call my parents. I was so scared though. The coach had me so, there was no way I was going to tell on him ever. I would have, especially at that point. So I have my daughter. I give birth, and within like 2 weeks, I hand her over to these people, these freaking people who I don't know.
Mhm.
I'm just hoping to have a good feeling about them. And I I go right up to I leave, and I go right up to school right after that. And when you know it, right after that, I try to jump right into school up there and get over the fact that I just had this major thing happen, and I try to play basketball a little too soon, and a girl ends up colliding with me, and I break my leg really bad. And I know, right after I had a baby. and and I was like their blue chip player. They were really happy to have me. I was going to bring a lot of promise, hopefully, to the program, and I break my leg. So the that created like a whole nother element of just uh, grind, I guess, if you will, how to get over that now. And it was funny. It was back before we knew like much about anything with how treatments and orthopedic injuries and stuff like that. And
Right.
I ended up kind of getting. It was the first time I ended up using pain pills that weren't even like prescribed to me. It was so funny, Mike. This girl on our volleyball team up at this new school I went to in Portland, she had an injury, but she came to my room. She had a bottle, it was like this big, filled with like Vicodin, and she just gave it to me. And I didn't even know what the shit was. And I was like, thanks. And I know so I'm up there. I have all this baggage, emotional baggage. I had no counseling. I had no I couldn't talk to people. I It was a very interesting time. But even after I broke my leg that year, just getting out of and away from the coach's like kind of everyday accessibility to me, he still visited me up there. He visited me like freaking 2 months after I went up there, and he came to games. He was very, he was always around. He never relented with, um, I think he felt like he had like a ownership over people in a
Hmm.
way. It was very, that's kind of how I felt about it. But so the grind, I do try really hard at this school, and even though I broke my leg and I'm taking now pain pills in a almost recreational form, I do stop all that. I don't do that very long, but I work out really hard, and I end up the following year, I get like the newcomer of the year award in the conference and for the WCC conference. And I was pretty shocked at that because I hadn't played in almost like 3 years by that point, and I'd had a kid and broke my leg. And but then I got an injury again on the same knee that I broke my leg on, and that toppled with the mounting emotional and physical or emotional turmoil and stuff that I hadn't really dealt with. It was mounting, and my ability to focus on school and keep like my any sort of goals in my view, I couldn't hold on to anything tangible. It's like my life just felt like I was just a bouncing ball. That's what it felt like, and I didn't know where I was going to end up. I felt so, and eventually I end up leaving this school, and I come back to Nevada, and the coach is still very much so involved in my life. I'll see him, I know, and it's so now I'm like a young adult. I'm a younger adult, and I'm still having this sexual relationship with this man that I think loves me, even though he didn't help me with our child, even though he only uses me for sex, even though he's with his family and his wife, and they're doing their thing, even though I hear rumors of him being with other young girls, uh, even though one of those young girls' parents reached contact me. And so in 2005, I leave this Portland school because I'm honestly, I'm kind of underperforming academically. I'm not, and I was already injured. I injured that same leg that I broke after getting the Newcomer of the Year award again. And I honestly, I was kind of dead weight on the team. I was like a fifth year senior, so I wasn't going to graduate on time. I leave school. I come back to my parents' home, and they finally try to force me to address the situation with the coach, and they make me report him to AAU because by this time, even though he had started off as like a little AAU community coach back when I was playing for him, by this time, and it had been probably like 7, 8, 9 years later, he was 8 years. He had grown that program to like a national quality tournament. They were running, so he was doing big stuff, and in the kids basketball world. So 2005 comes, I have to come home. My parents force me to report him because they're tired of seeing the failure in my life and me continuing to just be involved with him. They feel helpless. And I report him to AAU. My parents make me, and something got out in the little basketball world of, how small those worlds are.
Of
Um,
course.
Something got out, and one of the parents of a young girl contacted me back then, and I was still pretty young girl. I was only like 23 or something. And the parents told me that the coach had sexually done something to her in a hotel room to their daughter when she was 15 or 16. I Mike, I didn't, because my parents made me report him back then. It wasn't my genuine want and wish. I wasn't that mature then. When I heard that, I didn't know what to do with that. And I didn't know how to be mature with that information back then and be like, oh, okay, I need to do what's right. I heard that and it was like, I think I shut off in my head, like what that meant. I couldn't fathom what that actually meant and meant about my situation and what he had done with me. So I I kind of, I think, chose to ignore this conversation and interaction I had with his parents. And long story short, these parents end up filing an FBI report, police reports, AAU report to back in 2005 on him too. Nothing's ever done. Nothing is ever done about this coach, and ever. And so for after my parents made me file this thing with AAU, I went behind their back and wrote a letter kind of clearing it up, so to speak, just being like, no, he didn't do this, the coach's wife called me on, I don't know, she got my cell phone or something, and she was crying, Michael, like in a fit, that this coach had a gun to his head and he was going to shoot himself in front of her kids and her if I didn't take back my report to this to the AAU. And I didn't understand that like adults could be that manipulative, and I didn't understand any of that. I was genuinely concerned for him and for her and not for myself or in any way. So I completely disregarded my parents' work and advancement on trying to get him removed. And I I wrote AAU back and I said, nope, he never did any of those things. My parents made me say this. So I thought I was like in the clear about, because I back then I didn't understand. I not even close. It took me until I was like 36 years old before I reported him again. So in that span of like 10 years there, or whatever, after I don't report him or after I unreport him to AAU, he continues on. They don't do any investigation, even though they got a second report from another girl. He moves up in the ladder at AAU, and he becomes, I believe it was like vice president of AAU after having these reports on him years ago of being inappropriate with children. And so he's building up the tournaments, the programs. His daughter is becoming a very, very, very good nationally known player, and it's bringing a lot of notoriety to the family, to the program. I fall into a drug addiction at this point. I laugh because it's so painful. So after I unreport him from AAU in 2005, I try to kind of like live a normal life, if you will. And I tried to get married to somebody I didn't really know, and I
Yeah,
ended up.
you're messing me up today, man.
I know. I'm sorry, man, but I will get back to the basketball here.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Let me tell you something right now. I've been refereeing almost 40 years. and we've serviced over 5,000 kids. And what you're saying is good because a lot of these girls, these young girls who have coaches, you're going to make an impact on them by letting them know what to suspect and not
Mhm.
to go through what you went through. So I think it's very important, more important than the basketball.
At the end of the day, it is because basketball is only this much of our lives. We might
Exactly.
love it our whole life, but the actual time that we are in it, it's so small. And 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 because of that, because kids are in it from these really tender ages, and you're around all these really different people and different things going on, you want to make sure that that time is the best time it can be, and
Cool.
that it's not filled with a lot of things that you are going to have to undo for the rest of your life just because you had a little dream. It was uh so long story short, I end up kind of, and this is the trend you'll see. And Michael, I don't really know how to explain why it takes, and I'll say particularly women, so
Hmm.
long to realize what happened in certain ways. I don't know why. I don't know if it's some inherent wired loyalty we have if we're young and we have that. uh I I don't know why we don't report things when they first happen and, save people a lot of time and fuss. I wish, and I guess maybe that could be, a a a point of this. I wish I would have had the backbone. I wish I would have had the courage. I wish I would have had the self-sacrifice, because I think that was part of it too. I think I selfishly didn't want to see what this coach was doing because I thought he held a key to my future.
Hmm.
And so I was like, no, this is somehow going to benefit me. And I mean, how wrong and selfish was that of me? So I think there's a lot to, yeah, there's a lot to unpack here about intentions going into things, about, like you were saying, what to look out for, how to create the safest, most best experience. Uh, because you want to build strong people from sports. You don't want to build people that are all messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, it took me years to actually kind of come to the realization I had to get off of I got on pain pills really bad. I was after surgery on that leg,
Hmm.
and boy howdy, it was before a lot of the knowledge and information was on the pain pills and stuff, and I got on them bad for about, gosh, it was like 8, 9 years, and I struggled on and off, on and off. So my family's going through that roller coaster with me of that, after all of the roller coaster of that. And the kicker is the coach is paying for my drugs. And he's not all of them, but he's giving me money for drugs because that's the exchange of power now. I was now an adult that was um a hindrance now on him. And I had this secret child and stuff with this secret situation, and I was messed up, and him and his wife would send me money for years for drugs, and they knew it was for drugs, and my family called them and begged them to stop. But I don't know, I think the coach was like scared that I would say something and get vindictive, and I don't know, yeah, he was probably just, yeah, I had a hard time. I couldn't get away from him then because I was then now dependent and relied on him for some money for drugs. So I
Hmm.
would have to see him because he would make me see him to get the money, because he would get something out of it too. And that was kind of how I existed, unfortunately, for some years in my adulthood. And I wouldn't call it existing at all. But something kind of, Michael, the real unfortunate kind of pinnacle of this situation really kind of happened when uh, so my daughter's adoptive family, they let her, my daughter, at like the age of 12, 13, start knowing this coach and his family. They go out of their way against, and my family's like, please don't let her know him. Are you kidding me? He's a bad man. They're kind of a weird, messed up family. Please don't. Like, what are you doing? And they had total disregard for the requests about not having her involved with them. But my daughter became uber involved with them, and it was and it I think that was one of the main it was one of the main things that made me start realizing like the wrongness of this situation. I started really wondering, like, is it possible he would hurt her? Like, is it possible he would do something to her? Because she was around him quite a bit when she was around this age, and like on tournaments, and her parents would take her. And I don't know, I my brain started kind of thinking of these different things. I didn't like her being around him, and I had some other things start kind of maturing in my mind by this point. And I had really given getting off the drugs my best attempt, and so I was really dedicated to trying to build a life instead of just existing. And it just kind of coincided that I had this last little situation with this coach, this like interaction where he wrote me and he said that I had ruined his life. And it was very bizarre that he wrote that to me. And I think it was like the last thing I needed to hear from him after everything I had lost and been through. And I had no relationship with my daughter because she hated me. And after this point, I'm not even sure why. I'm not even, and she still does. I have no relationship with her. So this has been, as far as what can be lost out of a sport. Yeah, let me tell you, at 41, here I am. I don't have other kids. I lost everything.
Mm.
So, and the, and so I think the, I think the lessons are to keep, like, to keep things very, very, very in perspective. I think my family and I, we might have had some really big dreams, and back then, and this was before the internet, and this was, before things were really formed and all pictures and everything. So we had to imagine a lot of this, and things seemed really big and bright and grand. And I think I think had things just been kept in a better perspective, more measures and more safety and more precautions and all this stuff would have inevitably kind of been in place. But they weren't, and we kind of had the pie in the sky dreams on some of this. But um, in the end, after this coach ends up telling me that I ruined his life after everything, like
Mm.
I I kind of snap into reality a little bit, and I'm like, man, cannot live I can't I can't live with knowing that he still works with children and knowing what I know about him. And so I made a jump, and I kind of started this thing where I just went out online and told the truth. And it ended up snowballing into this. Eventually, I had to file a civil suit against him because I couldn't get any actions criminally done against him. I reported him to all the places, Michael, like the attorney generals, FBI, all the places. And even though he was actively working for the city at a major public building with the public and children, I
Mm.
couldn't get him removed. And I couldn't get him removed until he died just recently, like 2 months ago or a month ago. He was working there until then, um, at this place with kids and stuff. So I started this fight. it was about 5, 6 years ago. I ended up filing the civil suit after not getting any action criminally, and I had a very long civil suit. They're not fun. So it ended up being about 5 years. I ended up settling because there wasn't a lot of advantage to going to trial. It was a non jury trial. He didn't run a very good business, and so there was no insurance, there was no, it was a kind of a lose-lose situation, and I ended up getting him removed from AAU in 2022 because of my lawsuit, but they didn't remove him from the city that he was working at, and they never removed him. So I always felt like there was this unfinished sort of uh, I but he's not working with kids anymore now.
Thank God. Thank God.
Thank God. So yeah, um, yeah, very unceremoniously, my lawsuit after 5 years, and it was a lot of work, Michael, and I learned a lot of things about a lot of victims of his. He had a lot. There were, and but if I had to guess, I know there's a lot more. I've had a few women reach out to me just in the recent weeks, asking me if I remembered them and remembered the things that he said to them. So it's he influenced a lot of people in our area.
Okay, now I got to keep it real with you, Ash, because that's
Yep.
what I.
Yep.
You kind of said it already. What do you think? Okay, you left high school and you went to college. What after you had gone through that? What would make you stay involved with this individual? I'll be nice, individual.
This is so embarrassing, but he always told me he was going to marry me from the time I was a kid. He was like, "You get to the WNBA and we're going to get married." So I thought it was like he started telling me that at like 15. I thought it was like I just I was stupid. I was just and I didn't think my own thoughts. From the time that I had his kind of thoughts in my head. And I guess that's where some of my advice would be for young girls and parents of young girls is that age. Girls are so susceptible to just wanting to feel attention in certain ways, even if you don't think they're that way and they might not present themselves that way or they never bring it up. I'm telling you, there is something, I don't know if it's hormonally or developmentally at that time, validation and attention. Wow. In young girls, from almost anybody is always accepted. So that's something that I think should be very cautioned.
I'm so proud of you, Fu. I mean, you went out here and was very honest, and I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. You know, it 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 kills me to hear what the struggles you went through, and you talked about your past. Now, let's talk about the good things. What are you doing now?
It's been well, I've kind of been piecing together a little different kind of skill sets. I ended up getting into art over the extreme pressure of the civil case. I ended up discovering that I needed an outlet for art, and I actually ended up writing a children's book that I'm gonna. It's so funny. I'm gonna put it up really quick, and I'll show the cover. It's called Cats. They're Good People. It's super silly, but I'm gonna be. I'll have more info on publishing on that. I just got the demo on that. Um, I started this podcast, Ash of America, as a kind of. It started off as a safety kind of announcement because this coach was still alive
Right.
and working with the public, and I just wanted to um, share my story and my concern for having an unsafe person working with the public and children. And then, like I said, he passed just recently, and now I've been kind of in the midst of, what do I do with this? What do I do with Ash of America, or what? And honestly, Michael, so much of my real knowledge lies in basketball, and like what I really know, like down to my bones, what I know. And I'm figuring out a way to come up with some creative sort of. I'm not quite sure, a way of helping. I want to help girls shoot the ball better.
I can help that. I can help
Yes.
that. I
Okay.
that.
I want.
Uh,
Let's hear it.
I have some very good friends in high places. I can help you out with that.
All
Meg,
right.
Megan Price, she's from Texas. She's involved with the WNBA. And this is what I do. I'm gonna hook you up with her, and we're gonna make things happen.
Right on. Sounds great, Mike. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Now, Ash, for those who are watching, and I guarantee you after this, that's gonna be viewed by a lot of people. Is there anything maybe I didn't ask you, or maybe something? Hey, how come Mike didn't ask me that? Or I want to let the people know maybe something I didn't ask. Is there anything you have that maybe I didn't ask that you want to relay to the viewers?
I think that sports are a wonderful thing, and I think that the thing that I love about them is that they collect all of us from all different walks of life, all different
Mhm.
roads, all different interests, and I think they're a very important part of who we are and who we always want to become. We have the spirit of like trying to triumph stuff, try be triumphant. And so I never want to I think that we can approach it with just approach all of that with a more I think we can just make it better. I think we can always make that better, especially for the kids. So knowing what we know, and we can just set up different programs and different, almost like little bubbles, so that they can have this great experience, and that they will want to have health and fitness and things throughout the rest of their life.
And also enjoy life. Now, how can people who are watching this get in touch with you? Because I guarantee they will.
Well, I'm so bad at plugging my own stuff here, Michael, but I'm
But
okay. I'm on Facebook. I'm Ash Orndorff, Orndorff. I'm on Instagram. I believe it's at Ash Orndorff 23, and on my YouTube, Ash of America. Send me a message. I will make sure that I'm checking those, and I look forward to hearing from you guys.
Ash, it's been a I'm so honored to have you on my show. You almost had me crying for a minute. But
I'm
anyway,
so sorry, man. And I talked a lot. Thank you so much.
no, no, no. The reason why I had you on the show is to give you your flowers, give you your roses, and what you went through had to be tumultuous. And I'm so proud of you and what you're doing. And you know something, you're gonna make an impact on the people who are viewing this, and that's why I do my show. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on my show and being honest. Because some people be lying. You kept you kept
Oh
it
man, life kicked my butt too much. It kicked the lies right out of me. Yeah, but no, Mike, thank you so much. It was such an honor to be on your show. Thank you.
and guess what?
What's
Hopefully I
that?
can have you back.
I would love to. I would love to.
Ash, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, I've had a very special guest, very emotional. But anyway, Ash Orndorff, she is the best. She was one of the best ball players in the country. And unfortunately, she had to go through some struggles. But obviously, she has overcome them. And that's why I wanted her on the show and to give you your roses and your flowers. Thank you for coming on. I will contact Megan Price, will be hitting you up so you can
Okay.
with shooting basketball.
I
All right.
love that. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you so much, Ash. God bless.
Thank you.